Is divorce and remarriage a sin, even if the divorce wasn't because of adultery? I'm answering your question. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. It's snowing. This question really comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 19. And this is a moment where the Pharisees ask, is it okay for someone to divorce someone for any reason? And Jesus starts to talk about a certificate of divorce and all kinds of things. What's really important to do when we're addressing something like this is to realize that the Bible is written in a specific culture at a specific time. And divorce and marriage is a cultural thing. Like how somebody gets a divorce, why you can divorce somebody, all of that has to do with cultural values and cultural norms. Now, in this moment in time, the way that marriage existed was very different than the way marriage exists in the modern world. So in the modern world, for most people, marriage is a mutual thing, right? Marriage is something where two people come together, they share a relationship and this mutual bond. Well, in the first century, when Jesus was around and addressing this issue, that is not the way marriage worked. It's a lot better, a lot closer to that than in the Old Testament, but still, women did not have equal rights as men. And in divorce, a woman was closer to property than the way that we think about that marriage relationship today. And that really happens in the way that culture handled divorce. There seems to be like two schools of thought that are battling it out right now. And the Pharisees, the Sadducees, they're asking Jesus to tell them which way is right. One way is to say that, well, a man can only divorce a woman because of divorce. And the other one is to say, no, a man can divorce a woman for any reason. He just writes her a certificate of divorce and tells her to get out. And when a divorce happens in the ancient world, it is not equal, right? A man is going to be fine. He's going to have his property and all of those things. A woman can be absolutely destitute. A divorce will really destroy the life of a woman in a way that we can't even really imagine a way a divorce would destroy a woman's life in the modern world. And you really get this sense when you read the text closely, because the question that's asked is, can a man divorce his wife, right? Because it was assumed that the divorce is going to happen on a man, because it was very, very, very difficult for a woman to divorce a man, because this is a very unequal relationship. And so when we talk about divorce in the ancient world and in this biblical text, we have to realize that it is not the same thing. That word does not mean the same thing as it does today. And so basically, when you understand that context and then you go back and you read this teaching of Jesus, what you are seeing is that Jesus is saying that the way divorce is being practiced is very unjust, and it is putting women at risk on a deep level. And he says, no, this isn't okay. This is not something that God wanted. Jesus is saying that, look, God is not wanting things that are unjust. God is not wanting practices that leverage the power of the powerful against those people who are weaker or have less power in a culture. That's the real underlying principle in this passage. And this illustrates one of the most dangerous things that Christians who read the Bible literally do. When you read the Bible literally, so much of it is culturally based that what you're doing is you're taking the values of an ancient culture and the responses of Jesus to an ancient culture and applying them to a culture today that has a very different value system, a very different way of approaching things like divorce and marriage. So ultimately, this passage is not about the modern practice of divorce and remarriage. It is about the unjust practice that was happening in that ancient world. And so how do we apply it to today? That would mean that today, when divorce is being used to hurt people, that is not okay. That is a sin. And the fact that somebody might feel a pressure to remarry in order to survive, that is not okay. That part of our culture is evil. But the prohibition on divorce is actually the same thing, because some church leaders use this verse to say that no, divorce is a sin and creates adultery. And so you need to stay in an unhealthy, violent, abusive marriage because the Bible says that. Applying the deeper principle here is to say, no, that is actually wrong. That is actually a sin. You need to be more free to divorce people who are abusing you and treating you horribly. In some ways, this teaching actually encourages a more permissive approach to divorce in the modern world.